Underdogs, I am so proud to welcome you to this exciting show called Underdogs Unite. I'm your host, Eric the Underdog, and I want to first say just how fired up I am to bring on people who've been through the good, the bad, and the ugly. They fought through. They've been underdogs, because I've been an underdog. I know many of you know my story, but 98% death, eczema, all kinds of stuff in Ireland. My mom, Hillary Corcoran, fought for me when all the doctors were wrong in Ireland. And I'm thankful for underdogs who believe in one another. That's why we're doing this show. And I am just so delighted that on my first ever interview for Underdogs Unite that I have Coach Jerry Roisentul. And Jerry has been truly an inspiration in my life. Jerry understands what it means to go through emotional duress, what it means to go through physical, mental. You know, if you don't have this right, everything else isn't going to be right. And Jerry, I'm just so thankful that you're my first guest. So let me just start off with this question. What does it mean to you to be an underdog?
Well, Eric, before I answer, I got to tell you how unbelievably proud I am of you and how excited I am that I get to be your very first guest. I think that this is so needed, and there's so many people like us that have stories to share to inspire people. So I'm proud of you, buddy, and I'm just glad that we are here together to make this first interview the kickoff of many more to come. But to answer your question, what does it mean to be an underdog? That is a good question. To me, an underdog is that person that nobody believes can. Nobody believes that they should, or nobody believes that they will. And that person has this internal fire inside of them that just wants to prove everybody wrong. That you may think what you think, believe what you believe, say what you say, but I believe differently. My whole life has been that story. When I started out my first business in 1994, I was in network marketing, and I was with a financial services company for 18 years. And I was wet behind the ears. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about how do you lead people. I couldn't even lead myself out the front door of my apartment, yet alone think about leading others. I was living in a 300 square foot guest house. I was broke. I was borrowing money to put gas in my car to go to appointments. And I was a complete underdog because on the outside, nobody gave me a shot to ever win in that business, including my parents. My dad gave me a motivational talk like no other when they came down to visit me a year after I started my business. I made $1,350 my first year. You got to really be bad to make that little in a year. And my parents came down, and my dad was so upset and so frustrated, and he started to just lay into me, lots of F-bombs flying everywhere. And his last statement to me as he left to drive home with my mom is he said to me, "Jerry, I never thought I'd ever say this to you, but in this moment, I'm embarrassed to call you my son." And my dad left. Now, those that know me well, my dad was my best friend. In fact, he's right behind me. Where is he? There he is, right there. I always have that picture. My dad was my best friend. I love him. I miss him every day. But in that moment, the pain that came to my heart, hearing my own father tell me that. And I remember sitting up against my little mini fridge in my casita that I was in. And I said to myself, well, I have a choice. And I believe, Eric, every underdog comes to a place where they have a fork in the road. And the underdog needs to make the decision on how their life's going to be. And I was in that place, in that fork, thinking, well, I can do what my dad wants me to do and make him happy, or I can do what my heart's telling me to do and make him proud. And if I didn't make the second decision, you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking right now. Wow. And I believe that's what an underdog is. Against all odds, I'm going to prove you wrong. And they go to work and they get it done.
Jerry, you need to write that down. That is a great description of being an underdog because
Yeah.
you're right. You're right against all odds. And there's so many people out there that, are on the mat and they haven't gotten up yet. And I see you're wearing a Dodgers jersey. We were talking about that
Yes,
before.
sir.
Clayton Kershaw, right?
Yes. My son actually gave me this for Christmas this last year. And I, like you, love baseball. I grew up with it. My first Dodger game was with my father. I was 8 years old. I don't know why. I can remember everything about that game. It was a sold-out stadium. The Dodgers were playing the Phillies. The Dodgers were losing 4-3 in the bottom of the ninth. They came from behind. They won 5-4. The crowd went bananas. The noise was deafening. And I thought to myself from that moment on, oh, I'm going to love this. And I've been a baseball and a Dodger fan for the last, 45 years.
Wow. You're a true fan then. You are a true fan.
Loyal.
When we came to America, baseball was one of the first things I gravitated to. They're like, this is American. This is totally my thing. And we just got Cody Bellinger from the Dodgers, the Cubs. So we're hoping for a crazy, kind of out of nowhere, out of left field, pun intended, winning team. So we'll see what happens. But
Eric, this was supposed to be a good interview. And then you had to say that. I just, that's not fair. But you know what? That's okay. Cody Bellinger didn't do anything for 3 years with the Dodgers. He'll probably do the same thing with you. But I will tell you, I celebrated with every Chicagoan when they won the World Series after 100 and some years. I was so excited to be alive to see that happen. That was an amazing moment in sports history that anyone that just loves baseball will never forget.
Oh, goodness. I was with Gary, my younger brother. We were downtown Charleston, and people were just diving into each other's arms. When Rizzo caught that ball at first, it was like, and there were nuns that were in their 90s that were like, in my lifetime, I got to see them win. I mean, talk about a magical World Series too. Right. So, Jared, what do you say before we get into business? What do you say to young baseball players that are getting going? And you had asthma and stuff that stopped you from wanting to pursue it more. But what do you say to young athletes that might be watching this and seeing you're such a fan for such a long time, but wanting to, maybe go to the show themselves?
Well, I really do believe that business and sports parallel one another, because there's so many things that we do in the sports world that just kind of, morphs over into the business world. And I believe that for athletes, I believe that their mindset needs to be as strong as their physical ability, because sports is so much a mental game. Yes, you've got to be physically in shape. Yes, you've got to do your workouts. You've got to do the right things physically with your body, but you can't win at an enormously high level if you've got the greatest physique and the worst jacked up mindset. It just doesn't happen. So I believe any athlete that wants to start out, you've got to work and develop your mindset, because things are not always going to go right. And I say this in business, Eric, and I think this applies to sports. You can't always, control the things that happen to you. Injuries happen in sports constantly, and you can't control that. What you can control, how are you going to respond and react to that? What are you going to do with that? That's in your control. I will never forget, just in another sports setting, when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles tendon. And I'm sure if people, watch basketball, remember this. And Kobe, an Achilles tendon is 1 year, you're out, right? Doesn't matter what sport you're in. And I'll never forget watching this game and Kobe Bryant limping off the field, his teammates are carrying him. He goes to the sidelines to the doctor of the Lakers, trying to talk him into letting him play. I think I can do this. This guy just tore his Achilles tendon, and he's trying to talk the doctor into letting him play. The doctor said, "You can't, I won't allow you." He said, "Well, at least let me go out and make my free throws." And he hobbled out on the court with a torn Achilles tendon, made his 2 free throws, and left the game. But his mindset in that moment was not, oh my gosh, the next year is over. His mindset was, let me finish what I started and then I'll leave. That to me is what makes a stellar athlete, is the mental thought process they have when things don't always go their way.
My goodness, you're so right on that. I mean, you think about like Kurt Schilling with the bloody sock,
Right.
think about Kirk Gibson, with that home run he shouldn't have hit, limping
That's
around on
right.
first. I mean, like magical mindset moments.
Right.
But listen, I want to transition into business because, a lot of people need to know who you are. Jerry, you've been all over the world. You have an amazing business where you have motivated thousands upon thousands upon thousands of business people. And, let me ask you this question that maybe a lot of people haven't asked you. When you go and you do that, and you go and you break apart people's objections and figure out where they're going wrong in the mindset, what keeps you going doing that when you've got to unlock all that from other people? How about yourself? How do you unlock that in yourself?
Well, that's a great question. It's like when you pour out so much into helping others, how do you help yourself? And I think part of it is that you have to practice the things that you preach. I mean, you've got to, there's no way I can do the things that I do to help people at the level I do it at if I don't take care of helping myself. And so what I have to do is I have to pour into me so I have a lot to pour out to others. And so for me, that is, self-improvement. I am a big proponent of personal development, of growing yourself. Whatever you don't know, there's a book written about it. Learn to read, love to read, listen to Audible, pour positive things into you. I always believe in having a playlist of music that inspires you, so that when you get down in the dumps and you have those days when things aren't going right and you're like, what am I doing this for? Did I make a mistake? I just have nothing left in my tank. Music always restores me. It always gets my mind back, because it's hard to listen to upbeat music and be miserable at the same time. So I have my set list that I put on, and anyone that knows me well knows the one song that will just take me out of the doldrums is the Rocky theme song.
Oh.
I can just put that on, right? I mean, that you talk about the movie of underdogs. Rocky's it. In fact, I know you can't see this, but on my wall right over here, I have a poster that somebody gave me of Rocky that's standing on the steps of Philadelphia with his arms in the air. And the quote from Rocky 5 about the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, one of the greatest things Sylvester Stallone's ever written. I have that there so I can constantly look at that and remind myself that in order to help people be their best, you have to be your best first. You got to pour into yourself first. You've got to be what you need to be for other people, or you can't help them. And I think people try to shortcut that. People say, well, I don't like to read. Well, I don't like to do lots of things, but it's not about what you like or don't like. It's about what you have to do to improve yourself and get better at what you're doing, and to be able to help people. And you have to be an example. It's like you, okay? Prime example. You're talking to people about improving their health with these great, amazing products that you have, which I know, by the way, I use the products. I love the products. They are fantastic. But if you are an out of shape person, and you're trying to talk to people about, hey, this is great, let's get into health, it's just that your credibility isn't as strong. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or you're a bad person. It just means that if I have somebody that's standing next to me that's totally fit, totally in shape, talking to me about getting it, using these products is going to help you, and I have somebody over here that's totally out of shape doing the same thing, I'm going to gravitate to the person who's in shape, because it seems like they're doing what they're trying to teach me to do. Well, the same thing is in business. You've got to pour into your own self so you have the information and knowledge to pour out into other people.
Boy, that's so true. Yeah, and Jerry, that's confirmation because one of the things I don't want to do with this whole brand is to promote something that I'm not doing. And that's why
Right.
I'm working out as hard as I can. People that is that so you can get a girl? Is that no, actually it's not. The reason is because I want to live what I'm preaching. And
Yeah.
you know this too. Momentum is a great word. You start getting into a great workout routine and you love it. You start eating right, and then you don't want fast food anymore. I mean, it's amazing,
Yeah.
isn't it, how you naturally change?
Right. And I've always told people, Eric, momentum's the hardest thing to create, but it's the quickest thing to lose.
Mm.
And momentum takes a mindset, right? Because in order to get momentum, you have to do the things you have to do, but you have to mentally push yourself to do them when you don't feel like it. Like let's talk working out for a minute. I mean, look at your guns, look at my guns. I'm a work in progress. Okay. Okay. That's just too much. Okay. But my goal is I'd love to get to your place, to be like you when it comes to that. But guess what? I can't just wish it and have it happen. And you can't just, I used to be that guy that would drive by the gym, park the car, think, okay, this is good. And then I get out of the car and I'd go look in the mirror, in the window, and watch people working out and sweating like crazy. I'd start to sweat just watching everybody else sweat. And then I think, wow, well, I got to work out and I'm out. But that's not, you can't do that. Then the next step is you go into the gym and you look at the equipment and you're like, wow, this is great. And then you go sit on a piece of equipment and then you're scrolling your phone and you're looking at your Instagram and your Facebook and your emails. And then somebody says, hey, are you almost done with this machine? Oh, yeah, I'm done. And you didn't even do a rep. You did nothing, but at least you sat on the equipment. That's not going to do it either. It doesn't work until you start doing the work. And that's the same thing with your mindset. You can have a book and look at the book. That's not going to do anything for you until you open it and read it. Right? You've got to get that. That's how momentum starts. Momentum begins when you do little progress steps every day, consistently over time. Little steps of progress every day, consistently over time is how you begin to create momentum. And momentum helps the greatest teams soar. But how many times have we watched sporting events, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and then the team that has the momentum loses it, and you see it. You see it in their body language, the way that they play, their confidence is all of a sudden all over the place. You can see momentum, and you can also see people and teams that lose it. And you got to keep working at it all the time.
Well, let me follow up on that. So if I'm a coach and I'm watching you right now, obviously later on, or if I'm a player, how do I keep that momentum, Coach Jerry? How do I keep it?
I just think that, to me, I live my life in realizing that when I create momentum, it's easy to lose it. I got to keep it going. So how do I keep it going? We have to remind ourselves of what are the things that we did to create it in the first place. Because sometimes we get so caught up in things that we forget what we did, and we actually stop doing the very thing that we did to get there. And then when we lose it, we're wondering, well, what happened? Well, you stop doing the things that got you there. So I believe that when you're trying to create momentum, it's little things like in baseball. Okay, let's talk our language, Eric. How do you create baseball? How do you create momentum in baseball? Simple. One victory at a time. So the next day, let's go out and win that game. Okay, you win that game. Now you're on a 7-game win streak. Guess what? You're now creating momentum. But how did you create the momentum? One win at a time. So how do you create momentum in business? One success at a time, one call at a time, one follow-up at a time, one meeting at a time, one presentation at a time. And you just put those things together and you build those things together, and that creates momentum But when we just do it once or twice and then we go, oh, well, this isn't working. Oh, well, Eric, he canceled on me. Well, I seem to be talking to people and nobody's listening. Or, I'm working out and I'm not seeing the results that I'm seeing. Well, guess what? You want to get momentum, then you keep doing it even when you don't see results, even when you don't see the outcome. You have to know that if you keep doing it with persistency, that it will show up, but it won't show up if you quit doing it. And I think that's the way you start the process of creating momentum.
No, it is true. I mean, you think about all the people, right, that rush to the gym in January. It's a New Year's resolution. They're going to change their lives. And then February rolls around and they're not good. Maybe they win it every day and then they're going one day a week. And then the 2 weeks go by and they have these cheap gym memberships and then it's gone. They lose their momentum. Well, when it comes down to it, Jerry, you have impacted a lot of business owners. What is your message to people in the sports world about your business? Because part of what I'm doing, as you know, is promoting people I believe in, people who get it, who understand the concept of an underdog movement. You're an underdog business coach. So explain to our viewers in the sports world what you've done in network marketing. And I think what you need to do way beyond in the sports world and traditional business world.
Well, I think, to make the story somewhat short, but still give the highlights of it, when I started my network marketing business, almost 30 years ago in 1994, I think it was, 1994, I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody at the time in my business at that time, I live out in the Palm Springs area. I live out here in the beautiful desert. At that time, nobody in our company had ever opened an office here in the desert. Nobody in our company had ever become a vice president out here. Nobody in our company had ever succeeded out here. So when I got started, I heard all the people say to me, you're starting a financial services business in a retirement community. 90% of the people in the desert at that time were retired, and almost all of them had their own financial planners. You don't get to be more of an underdog than that. I mean, everyone was telling me, you're nuts, you're crazy, you're dumb. Well, you're thinking you can't do it, it's not going to happen. Well, after hard work and overcoming obstacles, I became the first person in our company's history at the time to open up an office here in the desert, became the first VP that ever was promoted out here in the desert, became the first person to earn company trips, became the first person to earn our coveted $100,000 income ring. I became the first to do all of that, not because I was that good, but because I refused to give up. And an underdog never gives up. And I built a very successful business. And then I went through some very, very, very difficult times in 2006. I was going through a divorce with my son's mom at that time. My son was 3 at that time. I went from having him every day of the week to having him twice a week. I went into this massive state of depression. I couldn't function right. And I ended up in November of that year on the floor of my apartment, writing a letter to my son to try and explain to him when he got older why dad took his own life. And so I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to be there. And the only thing that saved me was my faith, was God. That's what works for me, is God saved me because he knew there was a greater plan for my life. And I realized that when I sat back and I said, what happened to me? What happened to the positive, ambitious, motivated guy that everyone would come to the guy laying on the floor of his apartment thinking there's nothing left to live for? What in the world happened? I'll tell you what happened. I went from learning how to manage my mindset to allowing my mindset to manage me. And when I got up off that floor, I made a decision that part of my life was going to be spent teaching people the things that almost took me to the end of my own life. that helped me get back up faster than I did at any other time. The way to think, how to overcome obstacles and how to overcome challenges. And so after that, I ended up unfortunately losing the business, but God had a bigger plan for me. And that plan was coaching and leadership development. And I started my business, Champion Mentorship, almost 10 and a half years ago. And one of my mentors in my life has been John Maxwell. And when I started out in my network marketing business at the beginning, and I went to my VP and asked him, I don't know how to lead anybody. The first thing he did is he said, you got to read these 3 books by John Maxwell. Didn't even know who John Maxwell was. He's the #1 leadership trainer in the world today. He told me to read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership to learn what leadership's all about, how to develop a leader within you, and how to develop a leader around you. And like a good student, I picked up the books, I devoured them, and all of a sudden things began to change. And so in 2018, I had the honor and privilege of being able to become certified as a coach and a speaker and a trainer with John Maxwell and the Maxwell leadership team. And so now I go out through trainings, through Zoom, through in-person trainings, and I'm able to provide programs to people on how to communicate, how to become better leaders, how to manage their mindset, how to overcome the mental obstacles that are holding them back, not just from a bunch of theoretical ideas that sounds good, from actual life experience that has helped me get to this point. And just like your passion is to help the underdog, my passion is to help the underdogs strengthen their mindset, build their leadership, and become the best version of themselves that they can possibly be, so they can make the greatest impact in the world that they can possibly make. Right. And that's just basically the short end of my story.
I mean, who hasn't heard of John Maxwell, right? I mean, even in an airport, you'll walk by and see some leadership book somewhere. I mean, it's amazing how he's touched the globe, and the fact that you are aligned with him. If you're watching this, listen, I mean, Jerry, like I said, has helped so many people, men and women, overcome those mental struggles and challenges. And let me ask you a question. So from all the places you've been, at all the conferences, what would be a moment right now that would stand out to you as a moment of breakthrough with somebody that you're like, I'll never forget that?
I was doing an event probably about 6 years ago. And I was done with my event, and I had shared my testimony that I just shared with you right now. And I had a lady that came up to me after on the break, and she was sobbing. I mean, hysterically. There's a difference between crying and sobbing. She was sobbing hysterically. Finally, she came to, and we sat down to talk. And she said to me, you have no idea how you just saved my life. And I says, well, how'd I save your life? She said, last night I was in my apartment, sitting on my couch with a bottle of prescription medication on my table. And my goal was to down the bottle and to end all this pain that I've been feeling. She said, but something in me told me I needed to get to this meeting today. I don't know why, but it wouldn't leave me. And so I came here not knowing what to expect, not knowing what I was going to experience. And hearing your story and seeing what God has done in you and through you has inspired me to know that God's got something more for me than this. And we cried and we talked, and I was able to direct her to some friends of mine to get some help that she needed. And she got back to me probably 6 months later, like a new person. She was encouraged. She was inspired. She was on a growth path. She had a business that she just started. And I just thought, man, who would have ever known that that experience that I went through would one day be the very experience that would give somebody else hope in living. There's no price tag you can put on that. But then I understand then why I had to go through that, because we go through things to share it as testimonies, to give the other underdogs the belief that if I can overcome,
Yes,
so can you. And that's what we do as underdogs all the time.
we do. Well, Jerry, you and I are living proof of that. I won't
Yes,
go into a
sir.
lot of specifics, but you and I have been there for each other, in the last couple of years. And I'm just so thankful for that. Because listen, one of the things we need to get over is this thing that men can't be emotional and men can't share about their feelings. Give me a break. We all go through things just like women, where we got to get over stuff, whether it's emotional baggage or mental baggage, and we need to break through that garbage. Would you agree?
Absolutely. 100%. Because if we don't break through, it's going to break us.
Oh,
So we have a choice to make. Do we let those things break us, or do we learn how to break through? Those are the only two choices, because sitting around whining and complaining and sucking our thumbs when things go wrong is not going to help us get better. Having a pity party is not going to get better, because let me tell you something from my experience. I had lots of pity parties. Nobody ever showed up to my pity party except me. So nobody's going to show up. So we don't have time to sit around and feel sorry for ourselves. We've got to get up off the mat and say, what can I do today to start moving in a positive direction? Don't look at 6 months from now or a year from now. Look at what can I do right now to just move me forward. And every day, what can I do today to get a little bit better than yesterday? That's how you build momentum. That's how you get your mind to start focusing on better things. And that's how you move yourself forward in a positive direction.
absolutely. No, you're totally right. How many men let things go inside and they just hold on to it and hold on to it and hold on to it, and then something bad happens. And we've seen that with domestic abuse in the country. We've seen that with suicide. We've seen that with the opioid crisis. Oh my God, how many people
Yeah.
have we lost
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
that? And
It's
it's all
crazy.
been because people were trying to escape. Trying to
Right.
escape to something that would make them feel better.
Right.
Well, let's just say I'm watching this and I'm like, this Jerry guy knows what he's talking about, and I'm really liking what he's saying. How do people get in touch with you or see maybe some of the stuff you've done before? Kind of watch
Yep.
Coach Jerry.
Well, the first thing I can do is I want to offer everybody that's watching a free gift. And the first thing I would suggest is go to my website at championmentorship.com. And there's all sorts of information there about myself, my story, some of the programs I offer. But if you go to the website, championmentorship.com, go to the resources tab, there is a free video that I've recorded that you can download for free. And it's how to overcome your limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
And it's a 25-minute video with a training that I've done all over the world, simply helping you through an exercise on how to begin the process of taking a limiting belief that's holding you back and how to start breaking through and overcoming it. So if any of your listeners go to my website and go to the resources tab, they can just punch in their name and their email, and they can download that free video. It's 25 minutes. It's my gift to everyone to just kind of help them get a little more additional training with their mindset. That's the best way to reach me. There's a tab there where you can actually send me a message personally. I will get back to you on a personal level. And then I have my Facebook page, but people have to spell my name right because nobody ever spells my name right. You say it right, but you can put that in the links and everything. And I have Instagram, but really my website's the best place to kind of get a feel for what I do, what I'm about, and get that free video that you can actually listen to. And it's not just the fluff. There's an 8-step process that I take you through that I used myself and still use to this day. That's simple, but it teaches you how to take a limiting belief through 8 steps and how to start to begin to overcome that limiting belief. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's the beginning of how to do it. And I'd love to just offer that as a free gift to all your listeners.
That is awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And you have a great website. I've been there. And by the way, I've been to his events. His summits are incredible. It's an all-day experience. What you come away with is a lot of mental, preparation, evaluation, where you've been, where you're going, but it is so hands-on. You do a great job of making it really interactive. I didn't feel like I've been lectured to for 8 hours. I felt like the breakout sessions. And let me ask you this big question. There's a lot of coaches out there, and I'm talking softball, baseball, football coaches. that have kind of given up. You know, they technically coach the game, they show up on the field, but you see them and it's like they've let themselves go. You know, they're traveling, they're eating fast food, they're barely getting to the game. What do you say to coaches to say, look, it doesn't matter what your age is, 50, 60, 40, 20, you are what your decisions are, correct?
You just said it. Age, my father used to tell me this, age is a number. Okay, you say, well, I'm 60. So what? You're 60. Doesn't mean anything. What matters is what do you do with that? And when you've lost your passion for something, it's hard to be good at it. Whether it's a coach, a business person, if you don't have passion for what you do, it's hard to be good at it. So then you have to sit and ask yourself, what is the reason that I don't have the same passion? Is it because I'm done with this part of my journey? Is it because I'm looking at the wrong things? I'm focusing on the wrong things? What is the reason? Because giving up to me is never an option. But getting to a place in your life where you say, I'm just done with this phase of my journey, that's different. You know, I've done what I needed to do. I feel that I did the best I could. I'm done with this. I want to move on to something else. Hey, that's fine. But to just give up, underdogs never give up. Okay? Because the underdogs eventually become the big dogs. And you don't become the big dog if you give up and you throw in the towel. And so if coaches are in that place, that's where I work with them to really deep dive. You know, where is this coming from? Why are you feeling this way? You know, where did this stem from? And we do a lot of work, and the work's not easy work, but it's work that if they're willing to do it, can help them really fine tune and understand, you know, what is going on. Now, I will say this, Eric, I am not a licensed psychologist. I'm not a licensed therapist. I don't do any work that they do. I always tell people, if you need to go see them, go see them. But I am a coach who has had life experiences that when I can relate to what somebody's going through, all I can do is share with them the things that I did to get me back on top, and then let them do whatever they're going to do with that. That's what coaching to me is all about. And that's what I can help people with. And that's what I think coaches need to do. Don't give up, get up. Don't give up, rise up, because that's what underdogs do.
You know, one of the things that gets me excited about you saying all that is, gosh, how inspiring would it be if you were on a team, right? And you see your coach and he kind of showing up, barely hitting ground balls out or whatever it is. And then there's a transformation and the coach starts working out and the coach starts getting tangibly involved and the coach is out there with you. How much would that fire you up to play even harder for that coach? I know for me it would. I had some coaches in football and baseball that were in good shape. And I don't just mean physically, I mean mentally. I mean in every way they were with us. Versus those that were very much not, they were there physically, but they really weren't there mentally. So what you're saying is beyond true, and we need that in every sport. Here's my final question for you, a really important one. Well, for me personally, why do you believe in this Underdogs Unite movement? And you've had the plant-based nutrition that I keep raving about with my coffee videos and this video. Why do you believe in what I'm doing?
Well, I believe in what you're doing, number one, because I believe in you, because I know your story, and I've watched you overcome massive obstacles that, in essence, you should have not been able to overcome. But you had a great mom who helped you.
I sure did.
And so I believe in you, number one. Secondly, I believe that there's so many more people like us.
Yes.
They're underdogs, but they're afraid to talk or to share because they might be judged or people might look. You got to stop caring what other people think about you. Your journey is your journey. You own it. And you take the things that you've been through. You take the obstacles, the challenges, the setbacks, the crap you've been through, and you don't hold it in. You say, I'm going to use that to be a platform to encourage somebody else. That's what underdogs like us do. So that's another reason I believe in it, because it's going to bring out people that would never have a forum to talk about this comfortably, that are going to be able to share their story and inspire people. And then the products, okay? I've been using, now listen, I don't get paid by Eric to say this. I'm telling you with integrity, I have been using these products myself for the last probably 12 years. The protein powder that he talks about, it is hands down the best in the industry, the cleanest, the purest, the best plant-based protein powder you can possibly have. And as an athlete, you want to really be careful what you feed your body. This has a complete amino acid profile. It's got 20 grams of protein. I mean, it is the best protein shake I've ever had. And it doesn't have that chalky aftertaste. It doesn't have any of that stuff that some of these other ones, you taste them and they go, oh, that's great, until 30 seconds later, the aftertaste hits and you're like, oh my gosh, this has none of that. And they've got all sorts of flavors. I know Eric loves the coffee. I love the chocolate. And you can put, I make my chocolate smoothie with coconut milk, put some spinach in there, a couple of ice cubes, maybe just a small teaspoon of peanut butter to make a kind of a peanut butter chocolate shake, or almond butter. And man, it is fantastic. So we've got to feed our bodies, but we also have to feed our minds. You help them feed their bodies correctly. I help people feed their minds correctly. So together, you become the perfect kind of athlete, coach, business person that you can possibly be.
Amen. My goodness. Well, just so we get the final reminder, where can people find you?
Yes, championmentorship.com. You can connect with me there. There's a form you can fill out if you want to send me a question, or just want to talk about maybe, doing some work with you personally, maybe with your business. I go in, I do leadership trainings, lunch and learns, all sorts of different things. But please, if you go to my website, please make sure to hit the resource tab and to at least get the free download of my video on how to overcome limiting beliefs. I believe that will bless anybody that listens to it, whether I have the privilege of working with you or not.
Amen. Well, I want to say in conclusion, just how thankful and grateful I am to have the Coach Jerry Roisentul on my show, my first ever. And I just want everyone to know, there's a lot of people out there that say they're this coach and they're this person and they're an influencer. Jerry is the real deal. He's a genuine article. He has helped me in so many ways. He's helped so many people around the world, but it's not in this kind of like, oh, just a lot of numbers, like, oh, he's just touched a lot of people. He follows up. He takes the time. He does the stuff that people really, it isn't the sexy stuff. It isn't the stuff that's glitzy and all over Instagram. And, it's the real stuff. You want to know the truth of it. And I get so tired. I'm just going to vent for a second. I get so tired, Jerry, of seeing all these, imposters and people posturing to be this perfect person, when that's not how life is. And people want real advice and they want real mindset training. And that's what you offer. And you care about people. And I have felt it. And I thank you. And I want to thank you all for joining us this evening, or when you watch it, I guess tomorrow. Share this with everyone you know. We want people to know Jerry. We want people to know the show. And listen, if you have an underdog story, if you've been through some difficult times, contact me. You can email me at erictheunderdog1989@gmail.com. Would love to speak with you. We're working on a website. Should be very exciting, coming soon. And I do want to say this too. When it comes right down to it, we're not alone. We're all in this together. Underdogs unite. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Coach Jerry. And much more to come from me and Jerry. And next week, join us for Coach Jeff Freeborn. You can see this logo here. Jeff Freeborn, Sidearm Nation. And I'm thankful to him as well. But God bless you all. Bye for now.